Good afternoon, Support Raising Leaders Conference. Thanks so much. Today we have a special guest with us. Her name is Kate Gilmor. She joins us from Steiger International, and they have a story that I thought would inspire you. Support. So she's one of us. She served cross-culturally twice. For 5 years in Germany, and she and her husband have lived in the United States the last 2.5 years. Before that, the rest of her time in ministry, she has served in her home country of New Zealand. All of her roles in international operations and other supportive functions, so she's heard all of the fundraising excuses. You can't raise support when you're serving in your own country. Raising support for the back office support is too hard. So she knows the language, she knows the challenges. And Kate has a passion for her missionaries to thrive. So today we're going to dive into Steiger's story. So the first question you might have is, what is Steiger? So Kate, can you tell us a bit about Steiger?
Yeah, sure. So yeah, thanks for having me, Mark. It's great to be with you, even if it's just virtual. So Steiger is a global missions organization. We're called to reach and disciple the global youth culture who would never set foot into a church. Okay, so we see that as 17 to 35-year-olds, largely urban. We have presence in around 220 cities. We operate on a city basis around 38 countries. Now, we're a little bit of a different missions organization in the sense that three-quarters of our missionaries live and serve in their own cities. Okay, so we only have 25% cross-cultural. So whilst that's great for visas and mobilization, it's actually perceived to be terrible for fundraising. So in 2023, so last year, we really identified that one of the main things that's holding us back as a mission is our underfunded missionaries. So around 120 of our 150 missionaries not yet achieved full funding. They were struggling, and as you all know, that when you struggle financially, there's all sorts of pressures. It's distracting. It's just hard to even continue to do ministry. So we were asking ourselves the question as an international leadership: how could we bring on more missionaries when our current missionaries are struggling financially? So yeah, that's a little bit about us. I mean, yeah, that's a little bit of our backstory.
Yeah, that's great. I mean, and I think we have a lot of college ministries and campus ministries in the audience, and so they certainly can relate with the idea that you're serving in your home country,
Yeah.
and why should I support you? So yeah, they certainly can resonate with that idea. Now, tell us a little about some of the challenges you hinted and alluded about some of the underfunded, but dive down in a little bit and share kind of what was happening and the impact.
Sure. Yeah, sure. So many of them really have this underlying thought or feeling or fear, I guess, that they couldn't raise support in their own context or culture. So I probably only maybe 25% of our missionaries are North American, so most of them are from all over the world. So we have, Latinos, South America, Russians, Ukrainians, Polish. I mean, a lot of Eastern Europeans, and many of them were even are still, well, less now, asking, is raising financial support even biblical? Despite us talking about it a lot at our international meetings, having provided some with training, they're even just asking the question of, I don't even know if it's biblical for me to go out and ask people to support me financially. And they're also so busy doing ministry that, they don't want to stop to do something that they really actually don't want to do.
Yeah, yeah. Well, and I mean, it is a little staggering the number and how impactful and how stuck they felt. I mean that's a
Mm.
challenging situation. Well,
Yeah.
and then obviously that the impetus for the change was the impact on ministry.
Yeah.
But why change? How did you guys make this happen?
Well, we knew, I mean, we've been growing quite rapidly as an organization, and we knew that to continue with our growth, we needed to get our missionaries focused on being fully funded, getting fully funded. So last year, our international leadership and our strategic meetings towards the end of the year, we were really seeking God about our theme for 2024. Each year we like to have a theme, and we really found our theme for this year was to dig deep, like Luke 6:48. It's a man building a house who dug down deep and laid the foundations on rock. And when the flood came, the torrent struck that house, but could not shake it because it was well built. So, as well as many other things, different areas as well. This is not the only area, obviously, that we're digging deep in. We really felt that we needed to include building a way for our missionaries to become fully funded as part of our 2024 Digging Deep. So we knew that this would improve our capacity for the ministry as well as the focus of our people. You know, one of the main reasons we've experienced that people would leave the mission is because they're underfunded. You know, so that's just a real struggle, or the lack of focusing on their ministry. Because when you live in your own city, if you don't have enough funding, it's so easy for you to go and get a part-time job, right? It's so easy for you to say, well, hey, I'll go. For a lot of our missionaries, they're younger. I'll just go back home and live with my parents. You know, and we didn't want these things. We wanted them to thrive not only in their ministries but financially. So also when we're really thinking about it, I mean, just even biblically, you know, you're not actually only just raising financial support, you're raising partners, right? So the more of our people that can raise financial support and partners in their ministry, the more people that are praying for our ministry, the more people that are praying over the work that God has called us to do. So that's really, you know, was the fundamental reasons why we decided this year we were going to make a big change.
It's amazing. And I mean, just to commend you guys, so often we hear, isn't there another way? Like, isn't there another way to do it? And I love that you guys have leaned in and done the hard thing. Well,
Yeah.
let's get into some of the pragmatic. How did you start making the changes?
Mm.
Because it's a big deal to move, you know, from this a little more open system to a little more structure and intentionality.
Yeah, well, yeah, of course. And as a mission, you know, we have a lot of artists and creative people, so you can imagine, you know, their first, you know, love is not structure and systems. So, you know, that's always a challenge, right? So last year, I began to do some research into organizations that we could partner with to roll out a global personal fundraising strategy. I was a little tired of the ad hoc kind of nature of this region doing this region doing nothing, this region doing that. So we knew it was going to be a challenge because very few of our missionaries are actually North Americans. So most of our people, as I said before, live in Latin America and Europe and Ukraine, Russia, Belarus, places like that. We did have a kind of a vague program, was very American centric and not available in our different languages as well. That was also really important for us. So I came across Support Raising Solutions again. We'd sent a couple of our North American missionaries on your boot camps several years back. And now, as via generosity, you know, I when I got online, I was like, wait, you guys have boot camps in many of our languages, and that you run boot camps in most of our regions, and with the virtual things exploding as well. This is really interesting. So I got on call with various people from your team, and I realized we could have our people trained in our regions. We didn't have to bring them to the US, and most of them we could have them trained in their own language, which was amazing. And we could ultimately, this is what signed it for me, is that we could have our own in-house facilitators and coaches over time. So you know, because so starting this year, we rolled out a global strategy through via generosity boot camps to help our people become fully funded. So it's that's really the backstory about why. And I mean, I guess the clincher from me is that in their own language, discussions around cultural contextualization, knowing that in general the principles translate across cultures, but our people are always saying, but you can't do that in Poland, you can't do that in Ukraine, and you can't do that in Colombia. And through via generosity, there were stories of, well, yes, we did this, you know, which is fantastic for us. So yeah, that's we started the year. We rolled out global strategy. Since then, we've trained just the beginning of the year. We trained 117 people across the mission, missionaries and applicants. It's about 70% of the people we want trained, and the rest will be attending boot camps in the last quarter. Um, I think one of the biggest things is that what I've seen is that I've seen a change in the mindset of our people in our regions. They've gone from thinking this is impossible this is impossible in my culture, or this is, this doesn't make sense. We can't do this here, to be, wow, with God's help, I think I can do this. This is actually biblical, and once you change it from a head, it's not even just a head change, it's a heart change. And we've really seen that in our people. And even our leaders have gone from thinking, almost not quite laughing at me or with me, but like, Kate, this is like, you're unrealistic, to seeing their people and themselves actively raising ministry partners, and they can see the value that it brings our people, our missionaries, the focus and the relief it brings when people are on the pathway to being fully funded. Our people are being prayed for more. Our relationships with their sending churches or their home churches have deepened as people are like talking more about what they're doing and sharing their visions. I mean, it's not without its challenges. Different cultural contexts have some different challenges, but in general, we've seen some great change
Yep,
already.
that's remarkable, very commendable, and praise to the Lord, right? That
Absolutely.
he's changed hearts and provided a way, and it does take some creativity to adapt it to your
Mm,
home culture. Well, you
yeah,
want to talk just a little bit about some of the numbers to give people an idea of like the scope
yeah.
of what's happening, because it's not just five or six. I mean, it's much broader than that.
Yeah, yeah, it is. Well, like I like to do things on a, global scale. Yeah. So we've seen, like as I said before, we've seen 117 people through the boot camps, your boot camps, run in English, Spanish, Russian, and Portuguese. So we still have another 40 to 50 to go. So, which they'll do those in the last quarter. So that'll be some of our people and some of our Russian speakers and just Portuguese speakers. So we started the year with a dismal 35 fully funded families, which was the reason for this change, and now we have around 40 fully funded families with another 25 that are close. It's a process. For some of them, it's not only the pre-work that they're doing is blowing their minds, and they're like talking about it, and then they go and they do the boot camp, and they're like, wait, and the practice, the role playing and the practice that happens at the boot camps is just like, wait, I made that call, and they answered and they said that they would meet with me. It's blowing their minds. So in Latin America alone, we had the By Generosity Latam team come and run a boot camp for us in Bogota, and we had 77 of our people come. And yeah, I mean, our Latinos are all very inclusive, and so that was kind of crazy. Our Europeans thoroughly enjoyed the virtual boot camp out of the UK in January. I think it's January or February. We had, I think, I can't, it's around this, it's around 30 of our own people on Zoom. I understand they got a little wild and crazy, but it was a lot of fun. And we have seen significant change and movement in our European missionaries as a result of doing the boot camp. So we're slowly but steadily working our way towards all of our people being fully funded. So, now we have Colombians raising support in Colombia. We have Poles raising support in Poland. We have Ukrainians raising support in war-torn Ukraine. We have Russians raising support in Russia. Now, these are things that they would have said last year that it wasn't possible. So, God is really in this for us. It's not only freeing for our people to be relieved of the burden of living below poverty line in some cases and the stress that brings, but now our people are seeing God do miracles. And it's not only in their ministries, but it's also in their personal finances. Now, how personal does that get? Yeah, yeah. So, when Bryce, my husband, and I, when we started raising support 17 years ago now, an old missionary friend of my father's. When we sent, we started, making calls. He sent us $1,000 check, right? And he said, "This is to show you that you won't see a miracle until you're in a place where you need one." And that's always stuck with Bryce and I through our journey, and we are seeing God provide for our people.
What a great way to start. What a gift to you guys. But again, it's remarkable, and like we like to tell people at boot camp, like this support raising thing didn't start in North America or in Western Europe. It started in the Middle East, and so it may not look exactly like the way we're doing it, but God has always mobilized His people. So I love that you guys have leaned into that. Well,
Yeah.
one of the questions that many of the mid-level leaders here at the conference will ask is, how did you get buy-in from your leaders? Because they, like, we know that unless the leader gets on board, it's there's just not much like room to make it successful.
Yeah, and I would 100% agree with that for sure. So we needed our leaders to be all in. We have regional directors, we have an international leadership team, and in fact, the regions have been that have been slow have been the regions where the regions that have been slow with like getting on board with what we're trying to do have been the regions where the leaders are not fully bought in, you know. And so, but what we started with is this actually came from our international leadership team. We saw when we met last year, we've been talking for a while about the fact of our underfunded missionaries causes us issues. We've as responsible for team care and development, I highlight the reasons that people leave the mission and how many times that has been because they don't have enough financially or they don't have enough prayer partners or support partners like that. So like we run on an OKR or objective key results system. So last year or every year we set international objectives or goals, and as a mission we only have like 5 or 6 international OKRs or goals for each year, and this was one of them. That's how important it was for us. So this was like one of our top 6 things that we had to do in 2024. So once we set them internationally, each of our regions has to develop a strategy about how they would achieve or execute that, get that done. So we set it at the top. And I mean, I think that is, credit to obviously our CEO, but also just highlighting on a regular basis at that level, what are the issues that happen when people are underfunded? And for our regional directors to be reading on a regular basis, hey, well, we lost that missionary. Why did we lose them? Well, we lost them because they're underfunded. One of them, not the only reason, but the main reason. Too much stress, So yeah, so we gave them the strategy, was to partner with Via Generosity and supported them to roll it out. Now, our most enthusiastic group in all of this was our Europeans, which is from Southern Europe right through to Eastern Europe. They did it first. They were all over this. They got on board in January, February, and they started talking about it. They started talking our guys from Romania, and we're not just talking Western Europe. We're talking like Romania, Poland, countries in which people think it's hard to raise support. So we started profiling their stories on our worldwide calls. We highlighted their success at our international gatherings in July. So the people who have done well, we're talking about it, we're profiling it regularly, and we're encouraging that. And that inspires other regions that are maybe a little further behind to go, wait, if they can do it, maybe I can do it too.
Yeah. Yeah, I heard a couple of things that I thought were really significant. One, you highlighted regularly the reasons missionaries were
Mm,
leaving and the impact of not having support. You communicated, you kept them up to date on what was going on, and you
yeah,
brought a solution. You gave them a way to move forward, which I think is really
yeah,
important for leaders. They don't want to have stuff just dumped on their desk. They like it when somebody presents the problem clearly and then provides a way out, which you did, and that was
yeah,
awesome, great leadership there. Well, tell us a little bit
yeah.
about your goals and how you're working on those.
Yeah, well, we set quite ambitious goals. Our most ambitious goal is that all of our missionaries will be fully funded by the end of the year. Now, clearly, that's not going to happen in every region. It might happen in a couple of regions, which would be amazing. Um, so the other part of this is that we have an international champion. Obviously, I talk about this frequently at an international level, but we've also our international HR manager is the international champion of this. She's a fantastic executor of this kind of thing. So she's all over this. And then each region we have a champion to keep the momentum going. And that's somebody that's respected. It's not just, like it's somebody in it who already holds a different significant leadership position in each region. And they're talking about it. They're keeping the momentum going. We won't let it go. Like I won't let it go because I see the value in being fully funded. I see the value in ultimately people's ability to reach and disciple the lost, which is what we're all about, is just is incredibly it's well supported if our people are fully funded. Otherwise, they're distracted. So we won't let it go. So some of this is a bit of a cultural shift um, for us in the sense that our leaders are usually in some of our regions are the ones that are used to doing most of the fundraising outside of the USA. Now we see more personal ownership. Instead of the regional director raising a certain amount of support that's supporting people on their teams, we've cut that and we said no. Your people in your teams need to do that. Some of our regional directors are also underfunded, which is, like I keep smiling at them saying, so we need, like keep going, be the example. Um, but having people take this responsibility for themselves and having people like vocal and talking about their success has been really important. So we're hoping now with one more quarter to go this year, we're hoping realistically that 50% of our missionaries will be fully funded by the end of the year, and that the rest by the middle of next year. Now, it's a process for some of them. Some of them jump straight into it. We have some fantastic stories about people saying, like getting fully funded within like a month, and others are struggling. Others are struggling, but it's the support and the ongoing coaching that is really important for them. And we're already seeing that having missionaries take this responsibility for themselves has already released a burden as well from our regional directors. And so our regional directors are now able to focus on other things. And in our international fundraising efforts, it's there's been it's a change, it's a shift, and I think people like it, which is really good. So I think we're also seeing a change in the health and well-being of our people as they've increased their personal funding, as well as having more people praying for them and partnering with them when things are a little tough. There's now more people in their network that they go to say, "Can you pray for me? Do you have advice on this particular thing, or can you help me support me, not necessarily financially, but in other ways?" So we're seeing some changes, which has been amazing.
Yep. I mean, that all seems really positive and significant. And I heard a couple of things just to repeat for the audience, but you found champions in regions
Yeah.
and you let the stories go out as people and you put those in front and let people hear about it. I mean, that's great. And then you're setting some standards and ways to push people out. So that's really fabulous. Well, Leslie, is
Yeah.
there anything else? I mean, that you would want to say to the folks that are kind of in the middle of this journey on their own? Any one piece of advice you'd be like, this is the one thing I would want you to consider.
Um, So if you're rolling things out organizationally, yeah, you need buy-in from your executive, from your leadership. I think that's really important, and I think the way that you can talk about that is about talking about the issues that are a result of being underfunded, not necessarily about just being underfunded, but the issues the consequences of that. That would be one of my biggest things. I think telling the stories is really important. So we're a fairly young mission in terms of the people, and when we have worldwide calls, they're a little wild, and people, yeah, and so, but we create space for people to share their story, and one story of one of our Argentinian missionaries to Germany, which is a little like, so she's Argentine, but she serves with us in Germany. She did the boot camp, and she's just like, man, we should be doing this every year. And so, but what was interesting about her situation is she's living in Germany, and after the boot camp, she says, I was able to raise, 800 euros more a month towards my monthly income. And I'm like, great, the Germans are awesome. She's like, no, that's from Latinos. Now I'm going to try working on my German colleagues, on my German connections. I was like, let's go. Argentina is blowing Germany out of the water for her. So, I think sharing the success stories is really important. And also, sometimes when people leave our mission for certain reasons, sometimes we like to keep it on the down low and not talk about things, about why they left. And I think being a little more open with everybody about the reasons, obviously taking privacy matters into consideration, but I think that's also really important to be like, wait, they left. The main reason they left was because they weren't funded. We can change that. So yeah, that's probably my go-tos for talking about why we should do this.
Yeah, I like your last point a lot, and I really appreciate it. That sometimes we, for whatever reason, I don't know if it's shame or we want to
Mm,
protect people. There's all kinds of reasons we do it, but until we get to the truth, we can't move forward, right? And so I love that you're acknowledging, like, let's dig in and figure out, because we can do something about this. So I love that attitude. Thank you for giving us your time today and sharing your story. And I'm sort of sitting on the edge of my seat waiting to hear how the rest of this plays out. So we'll certainly be in touch.
Yeah.
We'll hope to see you in the future. Thanks again for sharing what you are doing with everybody here at the Support Raising Leaders Conference.
Yep. No worries. Thanks. Thanks, Mark. Thanks for having me.